either live by the gun or you die by the sword.
Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast MicroViews, where bad girls go good when Disney decides to rewrite their history as the revisionists they are.
True.
I'm Nicho.
And I'm Chris.
And if you hadn't guessed it from last week's episode, we are doing Maleficent.
One of the more favored live-action Disney movies.
Yes, one that we actually wanted to do just because we wanted to see how, well, we'd already done what happened when not Disney redid their own story in their own country.
True.
We did a sequel,
Mm-hmm.
and now we wanted to do what the live action is without having to touch some of the more, I guess, quote-unquote controversial ones.
True. A lot of people credit this as the start of the live action. That's not quite true. A lot of people then misremember that, oh, it's the Cinderella one that's the first live action. Technically, that's not true either. 1994 had a live action Jungle Book.
Right.
It was bad.
Yep.
And then some people will say, oh, no, that was a different thing. That's not a retelling. It just happened to be the same. Well, then they made a Pinocchio live action. It's also bad.
Awesome.
So, unfortunately, this is not a first, but it is good, which is different for Disney live actions. So I'll give it a credit point there. This one was watchable.
Okay.
Didn't hurt my eyes.
For some it probably did.
So, okay, yes. Some people were not a fan of this. And I kind of understand why. This completely ignores the original works.
Very much so. That's why it's based on La Belle Bois Dormant by Charles Perrault.
Yes.
With screenplay by Linda Wolverton and directed by Robert Stromberg.
And I believe this is Robert's debut directing credit.
I have no clue. I don't even know who most of the people involved in this movie are.
You know who one of them is.
Oh, yeah. I know.
That's why everyone went to go see it, actually.
Yeah, I'm surprised. You are right. It is his first directorial role.
How exciting. What a way to kick off a directorial career.
Yeah. But like you said, it is people are here probably more for some of the casting. It's Angelina Jolie as Maleficent.
That's, I think, the only one anyone remembers.
Ellie Fanning as Aurora.
Yeah, fantastic.
And Charlton Copley as Stefan.
Fantastic. I forgot about that one. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, it's honestly, it isn't that memorable of a cast. And it's a pretty small cast, too. I mean, most of it is CGI.
Which that was part of a lot of people's back and forth on whether or not this movie was good. Because it's relying on CGI is incredibly heavy. However, the CGI is pretty decent. This kind of harkens back to a lot of people's love of very Tim Burton-y style. There's a lot of Alice in Wonderland inspiration here. And there is a reason. Yeah,
the not the step siblings, the, what was her? The fairy godmothers.
Yes.
They were so creepy in their tiny form.
Yeah, not a fan. Burton was originally assigned to this work, but he did get caught up doing some other stuff. It got pushed back a little bit, and eventually Disney kind of got tired of trying to deal with him, and so they approached Robert to do the directing for this instead.
Okay.
However, this is 2014. This is in the thick of the dark, romantic, little bit crazy stylings that people were really into.
Yeah, a little grungy for what it's supposed to be.
A dark retelling of a fairy tale was a very popular topic, in the same way that right now the retelling in a Baroque or French Romantic style is incredibly popular. This was right up a lot of people's alley aesthetic-wise, along with a pretty stellar retelling for the music, which was redone and then played to fucking death.
Yeah.
And then having some of the best costuming work that money could buy.
Yeah, and one thing that I find weird about this retelling is that there's, and I guess I've never really understood it, is this mythicization of nature, of it being so balanced and peaceful, or like these...
This is out of left field.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things where it's just like, I understand it, like, at a certain level, it looks like it's in harmony, like it's just perfectly balanced. But it's always chaotic and violent. That's just how nature is, and I've just never understood that.
Yes.
Looking at nature as quote unquote peaceful, majestic, yes.
Oh.
Beautiful, yes. Peaceful, it's pure chaos.
Yeah. Along with the fact that once you really start studying nature, balance is a human-created concept. Nature doesn't balance in the way we want it to. It doesn't look balanced to us.
No.
So this was a very interesting attempt. I think a lot of the reason they went this route is because while they heavily disregard a ton from the original movie, someone clearly sat and watched that movie and picked out the only elements that they could find to then expand upon.
Well, here's the thing, is I do like their attempt at expanding upon, because
Sure.
I talked about it in our last episode a little bit.
Uh-huh.
How I still have never understood why Maleficent just shows up and is so pissed off for no real reason. It's just like, she's there because, we didn't invite her, so that's why she's angry. And this one adds quite a lot more to that.
Sure. This is very much an attempt at modernizing the fairy tale concept, where stuff needs a bit of a backstory. We're used to that now in our stories, in our tellings, and especially in our movies. Here's the thing. Visually, I love this movie. Music-wise, I love this movie. Costuming-wise, I love this movie. The story, I don't think it works.
Yeah?
I don't think it works, because this requires another agreed-upon handshake with the audience of what constitutes a fairy. Whereas the first one, you just understood fairy tale logic. We were there, we already had the explanation. We've now just rewritten the explanation with more steps.
Yeah.
And while I am not against a retelling, I do think that this is one of the ones where honestly the retelling portion outside of Maleficent herself does not work. Because this magical forest portion really does not tie well into the rest of the story or the rest of the movie. It's just there to be the thing to protect against the evil.
Yeah, or it's humans against nature, just that kind of...
And honestly, the humans against nature point of this movie is weak at best, and it feels like the only reason it's there is because in the first movie, there was a forest and thorns, and those two things were visually striking.
Well, they had to turn it into that ambition corrupts, and also that they had to do the anti-love at first sight, or love is real. It's like, oh no, she doesn't believe in love.
And that was where a lot of fans were divided on this movie. Part of the audience who watched this loved the revenge story aspect of it, loved the dark retelling, and loved the kind of exploration on why a villain is evil. Most of the rest of them, there was just too many plot holes, too many poorly explained or poorly incorporated elements, one of which being the nature versus mankind sort of story.
Yeah, because it's only used in the very beginning in a way to get the king to be dying.
And then at the very end to have a somewhat interesting battle, but honestly, not a very good battle, especially when you look at what other stuff was around in 2014 that this was just visually not as good. There were some parts that were visually good. The flying was good, the wing part was good, the costuming was very good, Angelina Jolie's acting was very good, but a lot of the rest of this just kind of fell through, so it really depended on what you valued out of your movie. If you liked that revenge story, if you liked that empowerment story, you saw this movie as being much better than other people did.
Yeah, and maybe it's your expectation going into it, whether you're wanting a traditional Disney movie or not, because I do kind of appreciate the twist of the king quickly, or descending into paranoia about his daughter, because that makes it feel more, to me it makes it feel more urgent with Cinderella. No, not Cinderella.
Wrong princess.
Aurora. Falling into sleep and also him just freaking out because he knows this is inevitable and it's his fault basically for getting it there.
There are interesting aspects of it, but I question whether or not this movie needed to be framed in Sleeping Beauty's world, or if a retelling. I mean, these fairies are so far off of the original one. Maybe we could have just completely reworked and ignored the setting. Yeah. Picked a different one. Pick a new one.
It makes me think of the only point that I defend with the live-action Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
Or maybe not the only, but like the big one that I say is the plot of that one was interesting.
Yes, I agree.
Especially at the time when it came out with the government erasing people. I thought that was an interesting plot.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think Ghost in the Shell was the proper vehicle for that.
I agree.
And in the same way, this probably could have been any other Disney
franchise.
Any other Disney could have made their own fairy tale at this point.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Part of the reason why I complain so heavily for this movie specifically is not because it's truly like that egregious and I like can't watch this movie. I've watched this movie a ton. Mm-hmm. When this movie came out, I loved it. I complain because of where it led us to. Okay. We are now at what I would argue is the choking death of Disney's live action remakes. They have beaten that horse into the ground. It is almost dead. If not dead, and they are just continuing to let its rotten corpse produce money. And so I complain because Disney's we liked this enough for Disney to see enough money come from this that they agreed to let kind of half-ass stuff that, again, could have been very interesting standalone retellings or movies or like first rounds as opposed to just retelling stuff they already had. Mm-hmm. Like this could have been a very interesting fairy-based movie about nature and have Angelina Jolie star in it again, keep the dark aesthetic, just get rid of the Sleeping Beauty part. We did this then for honestly, I think we're up to 10 or 15 movies now. Okay. We've kind of killed this thing. Yeah, and it's just gotten more and more egregious.
Because didn't they make another sequel on this one?
There's a second one to this movie as well.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah, well, and I think maybe it would have been, and maybe that's the thing, is because Maleficent is so evil in the beginning that humanizing her kind of ruins that classic character.
Yeah, it's missing the point of a fairy tale. It's no longer a fairy tale. Which is fine, but then why frame it as a fairy tale at all? Why not just do your own story?
Because I think here's the thing. I do think it actually works in the framework of a fairy tale.
Sure.
Where it, instead of becoming this, it starts off as this beautiful romance that turns into a story about revenge.
Of course.
But then that revenge turns into... She almost becomes this dark fairy godmother in her own right.
Yes.
So it's a story about how revenge is bad and acting in the moment against someone who's innocent and then realizing your mistake and being unable to do anything to change that fate. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the point of the story, is just be a little bit more careful of your actions. And I think it works enough, but yeah, like you said, I think the biggest issue with it is the very beginning of having to focus heavily on the interspecies romance of
it was a lot. It
the
was
fairy tale and
a little heavy-handed. We're in a mythical world. You don't need to tell me.
Yeah.
You can just be and the two fell in love.
You could have told their story in 10 minutes at the very beginning instead of dragging it out for half an hour.
I agree. And the other thing that made this movie kind of started the rock rolling down the hill for Disney and its live action movies. And we've talked about this a little bit. There is an interesting point of return where once you start getting actors and actresses that are at a certain pay level, at a certain fame level, doing movies that honestly maybe their whole reason they are there is for their name, you start to lose the long-term interest in that movie. Yeah. It will bring people in for the box office for sure. But that rewatchability slowly comes down.
Yeah, it feels more like a vanity project for them than anything. Or a vanity project for the studio because oh, look, we can hire this person instead of any of the Robert Rodriguez movies where you get these high-list actors who get paid almost nothing to do Spy Kids because it's a fun movie for them to do.
Exactly, and it is an interesting balancing point because I'm not saying that nobody deserves to be paid fairly, and I'm not saying that...
Nobody deserves to be paid fairly?
You know what I mean. But I'm not saying that there isn't room for people to be that A-list celebrity, right? Angelina Jolie in 2014 was an A-list celebrity, and this movie proves it. She was the highest paid for the entire year for this movie alone.
Highest paid or just actor in general, or highest paid actress?
Highest paid actor.
Okay.
For the whole year, This movie
Goddamn.
made her the richest actor in Hollywood for just this year. She was then surpassed almost immediately in 2015. This movie didn't have a small budget by any means, is somewhere in the 200 million. It made its money back.
Oh yeah.
By well and a lot in the box office alone. But here's the interesting thing, is after this movie came out, yes, there was Halloween costuming around it. The music was released separately and played, like I said, to fucking death. But then there wasn't like that cult love, right? Because there wasn't a passion behind this movie that was withstanding outside of a few small elements.
Yeah, the only thing that I know came out of this movie other than the sequel is I didn't realize that TikTok trend and meme of she was a fairy.
That's from this.
Yeah, came from this movie.
Yes.
Watching it, I paused and I'm like, wait, that's what that's from?
It's this. And honestly, I would argue that most people don't remember that.
No.
Because, yes, this movie was good. A lot of people liked it. A lot of people watched this, obviously. Nobody then stood by this movie for the next 10 years.
Well, I think maybe it goes back to how you talk about how Disney is so much about merchandising, and they're very hard to, like...
They merchandise the hell out of this movie.
But also at the same time, it's hard for them to, like, really keep their villains that heavily merchandised because they're wanting you to buy the princesses and the heroes.
Well, and here's the thing. This was one of their most merchandised villain before this movie. By quite a long shot. She is very iconic.
Oh, yeah.
She has some amazing imagery. And who doesn't want to wear little Maleficent horns on their head like you do Disney ears, or have a little plush dragon? Between her, the evil queen from Snow White, Scar, and Ursula from The Little Mermaid, those are by far some of their best-selling villains, or classic villains. They definitely were trying to market that with this movie.
Yeah.
Here's the problem, though, is those movies are for kids, and that merch is for kids and then kid-like adults, right? This is a very adult story.
You mean Disney adults?
No, actually I don't.
Oh, wait. Well, yeah, no, I can see it being a hot costume for Halloween for a lot of girls.
Yeah,
women.
Yeah, and the same goes for those other big ones. Like, you don't necessarily need to be a Disney adult to want to have the evil apple from Snow White as a mug, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's fun. You don't have to be a Disney adult to want to have a little fun thing.
Yeah.
She was in that camp. And then this movie then wanted to play off of that. Well, unfortunately, the audience for this movie had to be pretty adult. This was not a very kid-friendly movie. It's very dark. It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's what, PG-13, I believe?
I believe it's PG-13, and even though...
No, it's PG.
Well, it might be PG, but in rating alone.
Well, yeah, because, like, I'm watching it, and that first big battle is like, this is pretty violent for a Disney movie. Not knowing it was PG, I'm assuming... Okay, maybe they bumped it up to PG-13.
Yeah, and I mean, it gets away with the PG rating, but I would argue that this is not one that most parents are going to lean towards, especially when the animated ones are right there. Very easily accessible, and have a much better return on child value of happiness, right? This plays almost entirely off adult emotions and adult romance storytelling.
Yeah.
Children aren't just going to connect with this. So you're now taking something that really was targeted for the kids' audience and trying really hard to get only adults to then buy the merch. That's barely anybody. And I know people say, oh, the Disney adult... No, Disney adults really don't buy as much merch as people think they do. Not enough to maintain a cult fandom like what Disney wanted. Yeah. You know who buys merch? Cult people buy merch. This movie did not create a cult environment. There's no one talking about how they worked on it. Angelina Jolie talked a little bit about her time working on it, especially when it came out. But she really only did that because, A, it was a big interview topic, and her daughter was the baby. Because it was the only baby who wasn't scared of her.
Great.
That was kind of it. So there's not like this big, like, underground people collecting the DVDs, having posters on their wall for this movie, which is what Disney wanted.
And the people that are obsessed with it are probably the people that Disney doesn't want to be associated with, because I guarantee you there were a lot of guys who were scaroused by her.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. Disney kind of was trying to manufacture a cult following with this. And I know that because this is around the same time as the live-action Alice in Wonderlands, which do have a cult following. A pretty heavy one.
Yeah.
People still love the imagery. I mean, Alice has a strong cult following anyway. but then tie it in with the live action, which a lot of people like. It has that Tim Burton look. This was meant to be that, and Tim Burton just wasn't part of this project. And I do wonder if he was, if maybe this would have been cemented just a little differently in Disney history.
Yeah, I don't think his involvement would have changed too much, in my opinion. I have a feeling that...
Yeah, I mean, they've had it pretty well nailed down.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Disney would have reeled him in just a little bit. I mean, it's a heavy studio project, so it's not...
Yeah, like, they were okay with hiring someone who'd never directed before for something that they had already been advertising before they had even agreed to do this. Mostly because Angelina Jolie was the only one that they were guaranteed to. She already had promotional stuff before they'd started.
Okay, yeah.
Like, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, Disney's not stupid when it comes to marketing
Most of the time. They sometimes miss the mark pretty hard.
Yeah, they miss the mark a lot recently.
Yes, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people are now remembering back, and this is the start of the slippery slope. Because even though the other live actions before this, they were bad. They were really bad. Cinderella had some love, but a lot of hate. It's gotten more love as time has gone on. This is the start where, like, the general populace liked this. But you don't want the general populace to like your live action. You need the fans to like it.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the difficult balance of having a rabid fan base and having to try and cater and guess exactly what they want, even though, not even guess what they want, you know what they want.
You know what they want.
But trying to change and do something a little different.
Absolutely. And this is kind of a weird one, because this is fun. It's missing that little je ne sais quoi. And I don't know if there is necessarily like that perfect, easy way to fix this movie, because it has technically all the right parts, right? It has a big name actress. She was very excited to work with this. Like, she talked a lot about it. It has a director who, while this is his first movie, he's pretty good. He had worked in Hollywood before. He's not completely green. You know, it had some of the best songwriting that Disney could buy. It had one of the best costumers in the entire world working on this project, hand-sewing costumes just for Maleficent. I think she had around 300 hand-sewn costumes for just her, let alone the rest of the cast and crew. Like, visually, everything on paper says this movie should have been somehow better than it was. And yet, it missed. And I do have one last slight theory on why.
Okay.
This movie came out right as Wicked the Broadway was in hype. The highest it could possibly be on Broadway.
So kind of Disney riding off that hype a little bit.
I think this was Disney hoping to do a Wicked version of something.
Oh, that makes so much more sense now.
And you have seen that the Wicked fan base is long and hard-standing. I mean, hell, the movies, those aren't popular because people are going and seeing Wicked for the first time. Those are people who have seen Wicked multiple times live.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it live. I've seen it in actually a really cool setting if you get a chance. If anyone lives in the Nebraska area and it comes back to the Orpheum Theater.
Oh, yes.
Really, really cool setting to actually see that in.
No, and I mean, it's very good. It's got a long and steady, like, love of the Wicked franchise. This, I think, was 100% Disney trying to manufacture their own version of Wicked. And unfortunately, it had all the right pieces to the recipe. It was just missing the fan finding, right? Like, Wicked worked because there was a bunch of fans for the book, and then
which is also a fan fiction book too.
Which is also a fan fiction book, and then the Broadway play had just enough like head start to really create that fan base. To then we already knew they were going to be a movie the moment that the Broadway one started to kick off as much as it did. Like, we knew this was coming. No one is ever fooled to think that a Broadway play will not be turned into a movie. Almost every time it happens.
Okay.
Especially if you become big enough. Even if that movie, quote-unquote movie, is just a nice filming of the stage production, Disney will take it and they will put it on their damn streaming service, and everyone and their mother will watch it.
Yeah. I mean, that's not too different. I mean, Ingmar Bergman did something like that, so...
Yeah, so, like, it's a well-told and well-loved thing, and I think Disney was so close to getting the recipe, like, formulating their own self-created fandom craze. They thought they had figured out the recipe, and I think, honestly, they have tried to recreate that recipe with each of their live-action retellings since.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it, but I have a feeling Cruella kind of follows along the...
It is very similar.
Monsters aren't born, they're created.
Very, very much so.
Okay.
A lot of people credit Cruella with being a little bit better because it doesn't rely quite as heavily on its original movie. This one, unfortunately, tried very hard to, like, separate itself, but you need to have seen the first one to know why there's thorn imagery, why there's a wing imagery.
Or even know the basic fairy tale.
Yeah, like, you really do need to have some previous knowledge, whereas Cruella, not really. They kind of walk you through everything that you could possibly need, and do it in a little bit more smooth of a way.
Okay.
Granted, Cruella had the same problem, though, as Maleficent. Well loved in the box office. No one is standing by that movie as their favorite Disney movie nowadays. Not that it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't have the staying power. It doesn't have that hardcore fan.
It doesn't have the classic styling that people grew up with.
And I think this is just kind of proving that you can't create... there's no way to know what a fan group will decide is their thing. You can have elements. You know, like, if you combine these right things, you're probably going to get that. But Disney is approved almost every single time with these live-action remakes, and especially with their quote-unquote twisted villain stories that they've done quite a few of now. They just can't quite manufacture fandom. Which is interesting, because this is Disney, and one would think that if anyone could do it, it would be them. But even they can't quite figure out, like, how to force fans to be in love with something for 10, 20, 30 years.
It's like they're wanting you to just take your money and make it kiss the DVDs or something.
No, I think they do. And don't be wrong, like, I keep hyping back on this. This is not a bad movie. Especially by live action standards, and especially by, like, the twisted villain origin story standards. But this is the reason why we have the weird, like, Belle movie. This is the live-action Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is the reason why we have all of these, like, continuations of, like, stories that no one asked for. And at this point, this is where fans wanted complete new works from Disney that had a fairy tale element, and Disney chose this route. And so this is why I'm a little bit extra irked at this movie. Not because itself is bad, but because this is the slippery slope.
Instead of doing new arcs, they're just trying to profit off of nostalgia.
Yes, and before anyone screams in the comments, I'm aware of the fan theory that the reason that they're doing this is so that they can keep that copyright money coming in. I don't think that's quite right. Because I think this is technically its own thing. Yeah. So, like, I get where you're coming from. I kind of see it. I think this is more of them just not wanting to risk too much.
Yeah, well, the thing I think getting on there is that they don't have to take the risks like they did, like we talked about with Snow White and Cinderella, is like these were potentially the last movies that they would be making because they didn't have that financial backing of now the multi-billion-dollar empire feeding it.
Yeah. No, you're right. There's truly not a lot of risk for Disney anymore. No. Even if something truly flops, it's not really going to hurt Disney, is it? No.
So, Chris, rent, buy, stream, or decline that we ever watched Maleficent despite having an audio recording of us watching it.
Once again, I'm going to remind everyone, I'm a huge DVD lover. I love a little fun menu. I love an interactive thing. I love a little interview that I can click on and listen to. This DVD really didn't have a whole lot, which was disappointing, because usually Disney tries to put that stuff in, but I think with these newer live actions, they've really, like, not been putting the effort in.
This is just DVDs in general, unless you buy the special edition. If you just pick it up from like Walmart, or get the standard one. Yeah. There's usually nothing associated with it at all.
Yeah, so while this movie is very good, I think this is just a stream. It's interesting, the movie's very good, and if you like costuming, this is a very interesting one to take a little bit deeper dive. The gal who did the costuming for this is world famous. She's won a lot of awards for her work before, and this is a good example of her works. Yeah. So if you're wanting any form of, like, depth to this movie, that's where I would look, but honestly, there's nothing to look for in the actual physical editions. Just stream this.
Yeah, I'm gonna say stream as well. I mean, it's not I didn't love it, but I did find it at least an interesting attempt at a different type of redemption story. But I'm not awed by it like I'm sure some people are. And I mean, it's just that I'm not, it wasn't something I got like super into. It was something fun to have on, but I'm not gonna say, ooh, I need to go back and rewatch Maleficent.
That's kind of the kicker, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've now seen this a handful of times, and every time it's an accident when I rewatch it. Or because someone else wants to see it.
Or it's already on and you just don't want to change the channel.
Exactly, which is a bummer, because it's a fine movie, but yeah, it just doesn't have that little zhuzh. Yeah, too bad. But if you haven't seen it, you should.
Yeah, no, but I'm glad we decided to go down this Disney rabbit hole a little bit, and it was a nice little change of pace compared to the women power that we're going into next, and the violence. Boy. Women, get ready to rise up, grab your hidden swords and your umbrellas.
Yeah, this is compared to those, this is super PG compared to what we're coming up to.
Yes, and I'm excited we're entering more of my territory again.
Absolutely.
But anyway, this has been the Good, the Bad, and the Weird Microviews.
Thanks for listening.
Peace. Thank you for stopping by this here town of the Good, the Bad, and the Weird. We appreciate your listenership, and if you want more of our takes in your life, feel free to check us out on social media at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, or TGTBTW for short. As well, if we missed a fact, your favorite part of a movie, or just have a suggestion and want to reach out and say howdy, feel free to email us at tgtbtwpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to join our Discord at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, where we talk about movies, just share random banter here and there. And always check out our podcasters, streamers, or any other content creator we shout out in our episodes. We really appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening. Peace.